What do dollar princesses, tiaras, baseball, and proposals have in common? It's getting weird. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, a fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And I'm here once again with another episode of The Gilded Age, Season 3, Episode 5, A Different World. This episode is directed by Deborah Kampmeyer and written by Julian Fellows and Sonia Warfield. So here, I'm going to start off just mentioning Ada and this whole seance situation. As soon as I saw Madame Dashkova clutch that watch to her chest, I was like, kiss that watch goodbye. So I was just like, oh no. And speaking of which, I'm finding that some people are not here for the seance storyline. I think it's interesting in theory, but I think the fact that we know it's a scam and it's not really going to do much as far as her progression, as far as her mourning, is kind of like, I don't know. And I think part of it, of course, is the fact that we only get 8 episodes, so it's just like, like, time is money. Like, we need some stuff that's going to move certain storylines along, so I do get it. But if nothing else, Ada gets the inspiration to start wearing half-mourning clothes, which is indicated by the color violet. Now, jumping across the pond to England, we see the Duchess of Sidmouth, aka Gladys, settling into her new home. And unlike the last episode, we find out that Lady Sarah is more than just, stiff and cold. She's running the show, basically. She's being extremely passive-aggressive to Gladys. She's mocking her for the fact that they have mouse traps, which is something I would question. But okay. She takes a dig at her John Singer Sargent portrait. And she also makes it clear that no renovations will be happening without her say-so. Lady Sarah also goes out of her way to scold Gladys for wearing diamond stars in her hair as opposed to a tiara, and she blames Adelheid for this because it was her suggestion, and she promptly fires her. And what's really interesting is that we see the Duke, aka Hector, mentioning the fact that Lady Sarah is the one who wanted him to marry a Yankee heiress to save the estate and the legacy overall. And the reason I thought that was interesting is the fact that both Gladys and the Duke are having their strings pulled by other people. So the Duke has been forced into this by his sister, and Gladys has been forced into this by her mother. So really, they have a lot more in common than they might realize. But naturally, with Adelheid being gone, Gladys has lost her last link to her old life, and she's pretty much isolated. She's on her own. She doesn't know what to do. So, when all else fails, just call Mom. Call meaning writing a letter, but you know where I'm going with this. So, jumping over to the Van Ryn Brooke household, we see Larry and Marian out in a garden. And at first, it seems like it's a regular outing. They're enjoying their time together. But then, Larry pops the question. Marian is overcome, but she lets him know, yes, I will be your wife. Let's make this thing happen. And although we knew this was in-game anyway, it was really nice seeing it happen. I actually had a smile on my face. I was like, this is good vibes. I'm loving this. And of course, when Marian delivers the news to her aunts, it's very much split down the middle. Ada is overjoyed. Agnes is trying her best to be polite. But it's clear she ain't here for it. Because the Russells and the Van Ryns, this bloodline and ancestry being linked together, it's a no for her. At one point, Marian also references Jack's recent financial success with the clock, and Agnes is kind of like, okay, so exactly how much money has been made here? So of course, she puts Bannister on the case to find out the amount. And of course, Mrs. Bauer fumbles the ball, and she ends up spilling the amount to Armstrong and Bannister, and I was like, I don't know how well that's going to turn out, but it's out now. We also find out that the betrothed couple will not have the chance to spend time together because Larry has to head out to Morenci on behalf of his father's railroad business. And before he leaves out, he has to attend a gentleman's dinner at Delmonico's, which is also a restaurant that was created in 1837 and still exists in New York today. But instead, He ends up going to a place very, very different. It is called the Haymarket. And let's just say every possible vice you can think of that New York society would frown upon, you can find it here. And Larry confirms this when he says it's anything you want it to be. He even mentions the fact that, hey, you can have a woman, you can have a man, if that's your taste. I was like, I understand you're introducing the options, but I'm like, Larry? I was like, all right. You know what? Let's just move on. And lo and behold, who should Larry see but the Maud Beaton? I was not ready. Of course, Maud is the same woman who scammed Oscar and is the reason why the Van Ryn fortune is basically gone. But when Larry brings up the name, she mentions that she is Dolly Trent. She doesn't know him. We don't know each other. Good night. And so naturally, Larry makes his way to Oscar and lets him know what he saw. And naturally, understandably, Oscar is like, hold up, wait a minute. Oscar sits down with John, and John believes that her circumstances are punishment enough and that he should just let it go. But I understand that's the right thing to do, but let's be real. If someone stole that much money from me, I don't care what happens. I'm not even saying I'm going to necessarily do anything bad, I think. But no, I need to at least see you, have a conversation. I need to know something. So as soon as John said that, I was like, yeah, I don't think so. It ain't happening. Now jumping over to Peggy, we see her out at a baseball game with Dr. Kirkland. And let's just say things get just a little bit messy when she sees none other than Thomas Fortune. You can see she's looking back, trying to figure out if she can get away, but it's too late. Mr. Fortune has come to offer her a new piece, interviewing Frances Ellen Watkins Harper in Philadelphia. Later, when we see Peggy assisting Agnes, Marian pops in, and basically Peggy is trying to hint to her what's going on, and Marian is just kind of throwing everything off. She's trying to hint at, well, I don't know if you should. And Agnes is just like, so what's the problem here? And you can see Peggy looking at her if you don't shut up and go on somewhere. I understand she has her back, and it is not really an ideal situation to be in, but I'm like, you can't be putting her business on Front Street right now. But then we get to the train station. Dr. Kirkland is accompanying her. And who should pop up but Mr. Fortune? I'm thinking, is he just seeing her off? No. Mr. Fortune will be accompanying Peggy to Philadelphia. And Peggy's like, no. We didn't agree to that. This ain't happening. I don't know what you think this is. And he's like, no, I'm going. And Peggy's just like, okay, look. Either I go solo or I ain't doing the piece. I don't know what's going on here. Then, of course, Dr. Kirkland, he's stepping up because he sees the energy that Mr. Fortune is giving. And Mr. Fortune decides to buck up and shove him. I'm like, we about to brawl at the train station, my lord, Peggy. But again, Peggy shuts it all down and makes it clear that this is only going to go one way. So eventually, Mr. Fortune backs off, and he goes on away. In the meantime, of course, Peggy is still headed to Philadelphia, but she realizes it's going to be time to spill the teacup to Dr. Kirkland and let him know what's really up, or was up, may still be up, between her and Mr. Fortune. And now, jumping back to the Russell household with our remaining Russells, we have George, who is running into some issues as far as this whole railroad situation. He still does not have enough shares in the Illinois Central Line, nor land in Morenci, Arizona, to build his much-desired cross-country railroad. But when Clay, his secretary, informs him of their financial standing and how it's not wise to go forward, George fires him on the spot. I was like, I guess there's no honor amongst thieves. I was just like, wow. And to me, it just kind of felt like a tantrum almost. Like, oh, you didn't get me what I need, so you're out of here. And I just think that's whack. I'm like, this man has been down for you for how long? I mean, much longer than we're even led to know starting from the first episode. So it's just like, as soon as something goes awry, based off of realistic projections and facts, and, you know, he's telling you the truth, then you don't want to hear that. And I get fired for telling you what it really is? Oh, no. No. And because George is desperate, he knows that Mr. Merrick, who we were introduced to a few episodes ago, is the key to acquiring the Illinois shares. Now, George does ask Bertha to charm Mr. Merrick, you know, just to kind of get his guard down and to make him more open to hearing what George has to say. But Bertha decides to put 20 on 10, and it's not looking like this is just for the shares. I was just like, and the thing is, I remember when they first interacted at, I believe it was the charity function that Aurora threw, it was already a little like, but now I'm like, oh, okay. And you doing this in front of your husband? Ma'am, I'm just like, Bertha, do you enjoy being married? Do you enjoy being married? Because, oh my gosh, I cannot tell. But in the end, all of that is for naught because Merrick is not willing to sell. And of course, George and Bertha are going at it. He's mad about the fact that she made him look like a cuckold in his own home. And Bertha just feels like, hey, if you couldn't land the deal, that's not on me. So, too bad, so sad. Whew. These two are absolutely skating on thin ice. And it's clear that the cracks are already here. And of course, this whole tabloid leak situation is still ongoing. Church is lost, and he's consulting Bannister. He's like, well, it's usually the new hires, but they've hired so much new staff lately that it's like, who could it be? As of now, it remains an unsolved mystery. And of course, George is very proud of Larry's investment with Jack's clock. And as a result, he wants to send him to Morenci to see if he can close the deal regarding the mines and the land that he needs. And of course, this comes before the proposal. So this is where Larry lets George know that he'll be proposing, and George gives him his blessing. He's excited for him. I think we know that Bertha will not feel the same. Now, jumping over to Newport, we see Aurora meeting up with Marian, and they have a conversation about the social complications that Aurora's current status is causing her. One such complication comes in the form of a luncheon hosted by Mrs. Fish. Aurora mentions to Marian that although she is getting all the property, her life, her friends, her social circle, her social standing and status is now non-existent. And she is now being punished for something her husband did. Her husband gets to step out. He gets to cheat, he gets to have a mistress, but she's the one who has to suffer for it. Ain't that the story? Now, Mrs. Fish did invite Aurora, believing that Mrs. Astor likely wouldn't show up, but of course, she does show up, which means that this is a problem. And even before Mrs. Astor arrives, when Aurora enters the room, the women near her disperse and then make it clear that, okay, social exile is here. It's happening, it's official. And once Mrs. Astor arrives, Aurora's just like, you know what, hey, no drama, I'm good, I'm willing to leave. And Bertha steps up and she's like, no, I don't think she needs to leave. But with Mrs. Astor there, Mrs. Fish is torn. And so as a result, Bertha's just like, okay, then I will see Aurora home and you all can just enjoy this without me. But Mrs. Fish knows that if Bertha leaves, it is going to pretty much wreck her social event because Bertha is the main event. So if she leaves, so will everyone else. But it's Marian who decides to step in and assist Aurora by escorting her home. And all's well that ends well, except Mrs. Fish steps up and makes something very clear to Mrs. Astor. She points out the obvious hypocrisy in allowing Aurora to be exiled from their social circle, but allowing Charlotte to still remain there despite all her scandals. You're the one who made these rules, you have to follow them as well. You all already know that Mrs. Fish is my favorite. She's always funny and she's enjoyable. But I have to say, I was not expecting her to really go up against Mrs. Astor and put her in check like that. Because, you know, she's always just kind of been lighthearted, funny, cracking jokes. But she was like, yeah, no. The whole double standard with your daughter, it ain't gonna fly. So, what you gonna do about it? I was like, all right. It looks like Mrs. Astor has a decision to make. And when Bertha finally makes her way home, she discovers that George has received Gladys's letter, and he is not pleased. He is heated. He has had it up to here. He's like, you basically shipped our daughter off into this foreign country. She's miserable. She's alone. She's isolated. What were you thinking? Bertha is making it clear that she can fix it, and George is like, you know what? I don't really believe that anymore. And he also makes it clear that Bertha makes him weak, and he finds that hard to forgive. Bertha is making it clear that she is going to travel to England to fix everything, and George makes it clear to her that he may not be there when she gets back. So I think a really good way to sum this up is by referencing a line from what I believe is a very underrated Disney villain song. You got what you wanted, but you lost what you had. And that closes out episode 5, A Different World from Where You Come From. Shout out to the sitcom. Anyway, that's my show. But yeah, shenanigans, foolishness, foolery. Maud beaten, I thought we were done with that. I thought it was a possibility. I just figured like once she took the money and ran, she was gone. No, we got Maud or Dolly, you know, in the mix. We have this stuff happening with George and Bertha, which we all saw that coming. It was just like, how long do you think you're gonna be able to like just keep skirting the line? I'm like I said, you must not like being married because the way you act and behave, no. George is cutting up and clowning, and Mr. Fortune. When I tell you, when he was doing, I was just sitting there looking at the screen, and I was just like, bruh, is you cool? I was like, bruh, is you cool? Like, what is this? I'm like, this is weird. I'm so confused. You know why she left. You know why she doesn't work with you anymore. And you gonna pop up and say, oh, I'm gonna go with you. And you're married. Like, I'm so confused. Like, what is the rationale? Is Mr. Fortune okay? Is this going to be a fatal attraction situation? I was so taken aback. Like, you going to do what? Okay. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But I don't really know what to say. But hopefully Peggy and everybody else gets their stuff together. But yeah, we have some stuff to look forward to in this next episode. And I am ready. I'm so ready. This season has been excellent, so I can't wait to continue on. And as always, feel free to drop down below and let me know your thoughts on this episode and my recap in general. The mess, so much mess. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movie.